And we're back, and I got the craziest questions today. COMP125, week 6, part 2 of our broadcast. And I got to take it with a grain of salt. Patience, Tom, patience. We're talking about the window, the browser object model. We've been talking about the window, and what we've been doing is I talked a little bit about security, about, again, once you give up your geolocation information that's given, please, again, use this with a grain of salt. But this can be used to great effect as well. Like some websites use this geolocation information to help the user, right? If you use it for that perspective, it's good. If you use it for a negative perspective, to steal the user's information or understand where he lives or something like that, that's really bad, right? But the user's agreeing to it, right? So let's keep talking about a couple of things here that are part of the window. So here's a couple of things. We can also do things like an interval, set interval, and set timeout. We haven't talked about the timeouts and intervals things, right? So what's the difference between an interval and a timeout? Now, if you notice here, I have, there's no interval or timeout here. And what about over here? Well, look, here's method, resize by, it's still window. I can do set interval or set timeout. We should really talk about this because set interval and set timeout is one of the most common functions. And I also want to talk about scroll by and scroll to, all those kind of things too, because scrolling is cool. Resize by and resize to, any kind of resizing or movement in the current window that you're using will not be allowed by Chrome. Okay, so you cannot do things like resizing a person's window. It won't allow you to do it, right? The security reasons why, but I can close the window, right? I'll be able to close. For sometimes Chrome won't allow it, just FYI, right? Closing a window, the current window that you're in, is negative, all right? So be careful about that. But opening, moving to and move by and all this kind of stuff, it can only happen if you're opening a new window inside your browser, okay? So there's going to be some security stuff that stops you from doing this. So let's talk about this timeout stuff first. So I want to make a countdown. I want to count down, 10 seconds, as an example. How do I count down? How do I create a timer that counts 10 seconds, right? Okay, we have to understand how to do that. First of all, let's set our counter, right? Our counter to 10. So my var, right? My timer, so we'll call it timer, is set to 10. So it's an interval, right? 10 seconds. And I want to make a countdown timer. So I want to do something like this. First of all, let's use the basic stuff. Window, right? And I want to set timeout. Here's my set timeout. And it says, here's the method. There's a handler. You have to have a handler. It's not a question mark. There's no question mark behind it. If there was a question mark like this, it means if you want to, you can have a handler. Okay? So this is my handler. So something to do, and then some kind of timeout if you want. Okay? What's the timeout based on? Milliseconds. How many milliseconds you want to use, right? All right, so I want to do my window timer, so what's set timeout, right? And if I was going to do that to say, let's wait 1 second, first of all. I'll leave this timer for a second here, up here in a second. So window timer, I want to wait 1 second, and then I want to say, hello world. Or let's say wait 3 seconds and say, hello world. And I will do a pop-up, which is really annoying, in 3 seconds, right? So how do I do that? Function, here's my callback function. I need that, and I also need to say something like alert, right? As an example, hello world after 3 seconds. That's what it's going to say, right? And then I got to put in the second parameter. The first parameter is the function. The whole function is the parameter. Right here it is. So here's my function, and this function here. Remember, the set timeout takes 2 parameters: the handler and any timeout, if any, right? So here's the handler. Now I got to put the timeout after that. So I'm going to say comma, and what's the timeout in milliseconds? If each second is 1,000 milliseconds, I need to put 3,000 milliseconds if I want to wait for 3 seconds, right? So that's 3,000 milliseconds of wait time. Let's see if this works, right? All right. Caution, the timeout is on the current thread. If other threads are running concurrently with this one, they will ignore the timeout. Maybe you don't understand what I mean, but that's okay. Refresh. Do you want to share sensitive information? Yes, I do. Do you want to give me my name? Here it is. 1, 2, 3. There it is. After 3 seconds, there it is. Okay? So it popped up after 3 seconds, right? How do I count the seconds, though, right? Well, this is good if you just want to wait 3 seconds. Waiting for something to happen. Like an example would be, wait for the page to load 3 seconds or something like that before you show something else. Like you want to show something and then show something else. Take that away and show something else. An example of this would be, after 3 seconds, I want to take away this about me stuff and show something else, right? You can do that, right? Because I just have to program it into in my callback. But if I want to, every second, I want to keep on counting something. Every second, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 10. That's an interval because it's every second. An interval means it's going to keep repeating over and over again, right, until a condition is met. Okay? Well, like in case of a lot of things. So this is the timeout. Let's talk about interval. So window interval, window dot set interval. Here's my set interval. Press enter. It's a handler and then a timeout. The timeout is actually what's going to happen, how often it happens. Okay? So we're going to make it count every second. So every second we're going to say increment the timer. We're going to start the timer at 0, for example, and every second it's going to count 1 second. All right, forever. Okay, forever, because we're not breaking it up. Right? How do I break the timer? So first I need an anonymous function to set or some kind of other callback. You can actually have a name function that this points to as well, just like we've seen before. And then the number of seconds you want to repeat. So every second, every 1,000 milliseconds, right? Now inside the interval, we need to put in something to do. Like example would be console.log, right? The timer, right? And let's check, right? If my timer is let's say greater than 10, right? Then do something, right? This timer here, as an example, right? We need to increment, right? So we're going to say 10. When it goes to 10, it's good, and we're going to keep on incrementing it after we print it out. So the first one we're going to print out is 0, right? If you really want to be correct, right? It would be 1. But let's suppose we're going to say that we're going to put our timer plus plus here, timer plus plus. Right? We're making this up. So we're going to increment the timer, show the time, check to see if it's greater than 10. And if it's greater than 10, we want to stop the timer. How do we do that? Window dot clear interval. Okay? And it says handle and number. Now, this is interesting because we don't really have something to clear, right? You can't just clear this whole interval, right? Can I put this? Maybe. Let's leave this alone for a second. We're going to come back to clearing interval. For now, we're going to say something like it's console.log. We should stop now. It's going to say that every time, forever, until I do something. See if this works. All right, so let's refresh. Do I want to share my sensitive information? Yes, I do. See how annoying these pop-ups are? I want to make sure you know. Tom, gratitude, 1, 2. Hello world after 3 seconds. See how that both were working in different stuff. And see how it stops my counter? My counter stopped, but my hello world after 3 seconds stopped me from going beyond 3 because they're both working side by side. Both are working at the same time. It didn't stop my interval from functioning because they work on different threads. Each thread, the main thread, which is the main process, right? And then when I start off an interval or something like this, right, a timeout, either way, it's running on a separate thread now. It's not going to stop the main thread. The main thread is going to progress, right? So my main process, which is the main browser, right, it's going to keep going. This interrupted my main process, so this window here. Let's press OK. 3, 4, 5. It's going to keep counting forever. And it's going to keep going until it gets greater than 10. Then it says we should stop now. We should stop now. We should stop now. It's going to keep doing that forever, right? Just saying. It's never going to stop, by the way, ever. It'll eventually crash your browser, right? It's going to keep counting and counting and counting. So how do we clear the timer? So the thing is, with the window set interval function, right? It returns a number, right? This number, what I should be doing is I should name it, give it a name. Like for example, if I say something like bar my timer, right, is equal to window set interval function, right? This timer is going to receive a number. This number is the number of my timer. It's almost like a reference to the timer itself. Then, instead of doing this, right, leave that in there actually, and we'll say, let's clear timeout. We'll say window dot clear timeout, and we can put in the handle number, which is my timer. After 10 seconds, if it's greater than 10, it's going to show this, and it should clear our timer. Let's see if it works. So refresh. Voila, yes, here's my sound. Blah, blah, blah. 1, 2, it's going to pop up my window. Look how that did. That was different too. That was different timing too. Press OK. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's painful. 10, and we should stop now. Okay, so it cleared my timer after 10 seconds. So I want to do that, and I'm printing out a timer here all the time on the thing. I can count as long as I want. An example of this would be if I want to keep counting for a certain length of time, but I want to do something every second. I want to do something. Like for example, I want to update my page. Every second, I want to do something. Every second. It's working on a separate process aside from the main process. The main process will continue, but this will run asynchronously. Okay, just want to let you know this. Asynchronously in a different process. Don't depend on timers to operate together or in sequence. Just because I wrote them in sequence doesn't mean it has to happen that way. Notice that, I'm just putting it up there again, because of hoisting, JavaScript hoisting, okay? Even though I wrote this timer here and this timer here, right? This timer got kicked off and it's already rating 3 seconds. Doesn't mean if I put this timer down here, right, that this one would wait 10 seconds, do 10 seconds, and then this one would trigger, as an example, before this one. Let's change the order so you see what I'm doing about. So copy this one, put this one down here, okay? And let's just get rid of some of these annoying things. So I'm gonna get rid of this, right? Because that's really annoying to put that all together, right? So, and this prompt here, let's get rid of that too, because that prompt is too annoying for me, for my liking, right? So no more prompting. It's just gonna ask you for if you want to do this, and it's gonna do it, all right? And here's my timer at 0. It's gonna count my timer. But remember, now my timer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counting, I ran it before this. So what you might think is, what you'd be forgiven to think is, that my timer will run for 10 seconds, and then this window will pop up after 3 seconds. So 13 seconds will go by before this window goes on. Let's see if that happens. This is important to understand, guys, so please pay attention. All right. So I made a mistake somewhere. Function contact. Function contact, it says, has a problem. I didn't change my function contact, but I might have taken away a curly brace. Yeah, see how this is working? It says whatever. So let's take away, because I erased a bunch of stuff. And this is a problem too, right? Because look, I've got this closing bracket here, which is about this closing bracket. This closing bracket is because of this one. This closing bracket's here, and I got an extra closing bracket here, right? Because this closing bracket doesn't relate to anything. Right, so we got to get rid of one. All right, and let's go back. And console. Refresh. All right, so 1, 2, 3. Oh, popped up anyway. Exactly the same way as it did before. So even though you expected it to happen after 13 seconds, because you'd say 10 seconds first of my countdown plus then 3 seconds waiting time, doesn't happen that way. They happen at the same time. As soon as you create a timer a timeout, whatever, they all fire concurrently, all at the same time. Once they get to that line that they've been defined, done. They start functioning on their own. So please don't assume that. That's one of the biggest problems people have. It'll keep counting out forever. All right? Okay. Went to 11. That's weird. I went to 11, and then it stopped. Right? We should stop now. So that's timers, and that's the way I've written it, because that's weird. It came back here again. Came back here again before it stopped, right? Which is weird. Oh yeah, because it printed. I'm doing a console timer there. I should have stopped it before it went to greater than 11, right? So, are we clear about this kind of stuff? So the timer and timeout functions do different things. Maybe you want to wait for something to happen. You want to wait for something for 3 seconds and then do something, right? This one is recurring. This timer will go. You can make a timer go forever. Do you guys know of another way to go forever? If I want to make an endless loop, right? I can do that with a while loop too. I can make a count, right? And I can count it based on certain things occurring, right? Like for example, I can wait for, now this is where you'd be forgiven to think this is okay. I have a loop, a while loop, and every second I want to be able to count in my endless while loop that I'm going to count a tick, right? As an example. That's not going to work because a while loop is going to run concurrently with my timer. So my while loop is going to keep going, and then I'm going to count. If I have my timer in a while loop, that means every loop it's going to create a new timer separate from my other one, separate from a new instance of the timer object. Please don't do it that way. You'll kill your machine or the browser that's incoming, right? Because it'll keep on creating new timers over and over again because they're just instances of the timer object. Even though I have a name, this is an unnamed object called timeout, it's still an object that gets created as an instance of the timeout object. Set timeout. Yes. Of course, every browser. So you don't want to do this is bad, right? And this is used. These timer objects are used for certain special effects. Like for example, I want to ease in, or I want to move an object from my left part of the screen to the right, right? So let me show you this. So we have in our just a special effect before we end for today. Here's my about HTML page. My about HTML page, right here it is. My about HTML page has a my container object, and inside there's something called paragraph 3, right? So every other second, I want to make it disappear. I want to make it display so that it's off, so you don't see it. Display none, and then every second, I want it to blink back into existence. So I want it to say nothing. It's not there. Now it's back. There, it's back. That's going to change my. By the way, it's going to change my layout. It's going to bounce my layout around all the time. But let's just say I want to make it so it displays done and comes back over and over again. How do I do such a crazy thing, right? Well, one is I got to target my paragraph 3, right? So I need to make that happen. So let's do something like more of a special effect. So down here into my about page, I want to link into my paragraph 3. So how do I do that? Many ways we've talked about this week. One of the ways is to create a get elements by tag name, right? And the only paragraph in my on my page is the first paragraph, so it would be the 0th paragraph. So I could say something like this: paragraph, right, is equal to get elements by tag name paragraph. Now this is elements, so I want to pass in the first element to that, right? That's the first paragraph that I got on my page. Good. I got now I'm accessing that paragraph. I don't have to do by ID. I don't care what the ID is. The first paragraph, whatever it is, right? Okay, now that I got my paragraph, every other second in my count, so here in my count, every other second, how do I do every other second? Let's say on even seconds. If it divides evenly by 2, right, then I want to make it disappear. All right? And if it's every other second, if it's not divided by 2, I want it to appear. So how do I do that? But like the following, this is how you do it. I'll say if timer %2, right, is exactly equal to 0, right? Then what's %2? Modulus, right? Modulus says if the remainder of whatever my timer is divided by 2 is equal to 0, there's no remainder. That means it's equally 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. Then do something, which is my paragraph dot style dot display, right, is equal to none. Right? So I want to turn it off. Right? If, on the other hand, else it's something else, then my paragraph dot style dot display is equal to block. It displays it again. So I'm changing my CSS style so that I shut it down and then show it again. Shut it down and show it again. I keep doing that over and over again every second. Let's see if it works. You know, we're just playing, right? Go back to here, refresh. Oh, get elements by tag name is not defined. Okay, did I do something wrong? Yeah, document dots. How about that? Okay, refresh. So 1, 2. How come it's not working? How come it's not playing around with my paragraph? Oh, wait. Oh, 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 hey, oh. It did it, didn't it? Okay. Let's check out not just the paragraph, but the whole div, right? Because now we've played with that. I didn't see it, so I want to get rid of the about me too, right? So let's go to my about page, and you can see that here's my my div, blah 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 blah, and now this div with the class of container. So this to me is a little bit more difficult to get rid of, but let's get rid of the h1 tag and the paragraph tag, which is inside of this div class of row. So I can do get elements by class name, row, right? And then get rid of anything with the class name of row, the first element. All right, so let's try this out. So it'll be the same idea. Instead of get elements by tag name of paragraph, we'll call this row div. We'll rename this, and then we'll say document.get get elements by class name. Right? We'll say the class name is row. We'll say the first element with the class name of row is the row div. Right? There we go. And instead of checking with paragraph, we can say row div instead of paragraph style. Get rid of that whole row, the whole div, and everything inside of it. Because when you display none on a particular element, everything that's inside that element, including all other nested elements, also display none. Right? Let's see if that happens. Right? So blah blah blah, refresh, and see if it works. Oh, huh, oh, huh, oh, there it goes. Hey, huh. Hold on. Is this something you should do? Absolutely not. It'll mess with your layout. No, I'm saying it'll mess with your layout. Unless you have a fixed layout on the top, you don't want to make something blinking. This is going back to the 80s again. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? It's bad. Any kind of blinking text that says, read me, is just not good, right? You don't want to attract attention that way anyway. By the way, I can make human persistence of vision, anything below 260 milliseconds is like too fast, right? So if I really wanted to try something like this, let's say, for example, instead of an interval being 10 seconds, and just for now, what we're going to do is in our little app.js, yeah, we're going to kill it. Let's kill the set timeout function. We're going to kill this thing, and just from a persistence of vision perspective, let's reduce this to something like 200 milliseconds. Okay, 200 milliseconds is 0.2 seconds. So every 0.2 seconds is going to blink. All right, or something like that. All right, let's see if that works. Let's see how fast this is. So refresh, right? It can be really fast, right? So do you really want that to happen is the answer. Thank you. And the answer is what's happening is your layout is shifting like this, up and down. If you had a bigger layout, it would just keep doing this stuff all over and over again, like up and down, up and down. So the layout would expand and contract. You don't want that. That is the worst thing you possibly can think of to want, right? So please don't do that. Just to finish off for today and finish off this whole PowerPoint presentation, I think we've really talked about some really cool functions. One of them is again, the window object and all the little functions inside of it. I really encourage you to learn some of this stuff. I didn't get a chance to do scroll by. And by the way, it says scrolls the window or tab by a specified amount, right? Be careful about the scroll by thing. Like example would be if you want to scroll by 300 pixels, that's called hijacking, all right? You don't want to hijack somebody's scroll, right? So you click on a button, all of a sudden, you're put to the next level. And then you scroll, when you press your scroll wheel, right, you hijack their scroll. So you can listen, you can do an event handler. So when the person scrolls with their mouse, any kind of scrolling that happens, that's an event. I can listen to the window scroll event, and when they scrolls, I'm not going to let him just scroll 1 pixel. He's going to scroll 500 pixels to the next panel, right? Some people think that's a really cool effect. I think it's the ugliest thing that's possible. Like if you're hijacking my scrolling ability, like I got to see your whole page. I don't want to scroll down 1 pixel at a time. It's not a really good, I don't think it's a good design decision these days, okay? People do that though. You might see like everyone tries to scroll on a whole panel, right? Whole panel will scroll, whole panel, right? Because they think it's like seeing someone's slideshow. Yes, but then you take away the ability for someone to choose not to see that. No. Once it's scroll, you get scroll by. Scroll to is another thing that people can do. Scroll to, an example of this would be is if you click on a button and you make a single page application with multiple breakpoints, anchors inside your page, and I want to scroll to a particular anchor point, right? Like way down the page, right? And if it's a long page, that can be okay. Like for example, scroll to top, right? I have an anchor tag, that's the top, and it'll scroll to a particular position. It says repeatedly scrolls the window tab to a specified position. And if you want to try this out, just show you. So those are the two things I think you should talk about. If I go to window.scroll scroll to, and it tells me what I want, X and Y coordinates. X and Y coordinates. So if I click on something or do something, then I want to scroll to a particular X and Y coordinate on the screen, like scroll to the bottom, right? And scroll by, just a second, scroll by, it tells me, tell me where to scroll. Like for example, scroll to the right, right? After I'm done, my timer, right? Scroll to the right by, to 30 pixels or 100 pixels or wherever, right? That means me, I'm physically scrolling. My screen is 1200 pixels. Let's show you what's going to happen here. So if I put this inside my timer, right? So every 200 every 200. No, this is going to be interesting. Every 200 milliseconds, I'm going to scroll to the right. So scroll window dot scroll to. My X coordinate is not going to be affected, but I'm going to say my Y coordinate is going to be a specific Y coordinate. I can specify the parameter that I want to use. I want to scroll to, whatever. Whatever my current Y coordinate is, plus, and I have to keep track of my current Y coordinates. So var, if I want to get my screen X and Y, how do I do that? My current X and Y coordinate would be 0. Let's say we'll start off at var Y is equal to 0. So start off at 0. Now Y is up and down. X is left and right, right? So if I start Y is equal to 0, I want to say, and inside here where timer goes to plus plus, I want to go Y plus equals to 400. So every 200 milliseconds it goes 400 pixels down, right? Will I ever see my stuff again? Probably not, right? So if I say Y to the Y, right? Yeah, Y to the Y. Why? Because Y is here. So if I say Y chord, if I say Y, just to make it different, Y chord plus equal to 400, and then I'll say Y chord down here, right? And then if I say Y is equal to this, see how it's giving me an error? Right, Y chord is equal to that. And X chord is 0, so let's go with 0. Make it easy. There we go, 0 and Y chord. Y chord is the other way around. Let's see what happens. Okay, did I notice any scrolling happening? You know why? There's nothing there. I got nothing on the page to scroll that far. But if I put in a bunch of text, bear with me one more second, guys. Just give you this example, and then you guys can go. So let's say I got my paragraph 3, and I want to say lorem 400. Let's do another paragraph with lorem 400. And let's do another paragraph. It's a beautiful thing about doing quick text. P lorem 400. Notice I'm not putting in 500. It won't work. Lorem 400, I think is the best you can do. P with lorem 400. There we go. Bigger here. P lorem 400. Let's keep going. Lots of text. Oof. Okay. Lots and lots of text. Let's see how that works. And refresh. By the way, you can see that I scrolled all the way down to a point where there was no more to scroll, right? And if you want to see that for certain, right, if I go back to my app.js, maybe 400 is too much. We'll scroll 100 at a time and see what happens. I'm going to go back to the top, right? And we don't have to see this anymore. Let's just see what happens. Refresh, right? You can do as much as you want. You can go by chunks. You can go by five pixels at a time. But every 200 milliseconds, it's going to scroll your page whatever way you want. You can control your scrolling. Please don't try and scroll 400 at a time on a click, 500 at a time, or whatever it's going to be your page. That would be really bad. Questions around what we did today. We did a lot of little things around window. There's so much more in there. I can't possibly cover it all. There's lots of really cool examples in here to go through, like opening and closing windows. Just know when opening and closing windows, you can close a window, but your Chrome might stop it. You can open up a new window, no problem. When it comes to resize to, scroll by works, set interval works, but resize by, resize to, move by, move to, those things won't work for the current window. Chrome and any other browser will stop you from doing moving and resizing of your window. It won't allow it, right? But if you open up a sub window of your main window, it'll work no problem. All right? Same thing with this kind of stuff, changing the window size and all this kind of stuff. You can create a whole new window from within your within Chrome, no problem. The rest is all about windows and closing and timing intervals we covered, which is really, really important. I'm not going to cover more about timings and intervals. I will, however, ask you the difference on your test. So on Wednesday, I'm going to ask you, hey, what's the difference between a timer, like a set timeout, or a set interval? And I'm recording it here so you hear me. Set timeout is wait for a certain number of seconds before you do something, right? That's set timeout. Set interval means wait for this many seconds and then keep repeating an interval. Keeps going, keeps going, keeps going until you clear the interval, right? And it might go forever. Okay, just FYI, all right? And that's really it in a nutshell. We also talked about the location object, and we talked a little bit about the navigator object with getting information from the user for their, for things like your user agent. We talked about that a little bit. Also, the position of where they are, and from a geolocation perspective, you can get that information. So that's really it in a nutshell. We covered everything that has to be covered. Next day when we get together, we'll start off with user input validation and forms. That's starting off on Wednesday, because we got to talk about that. And if I have time, I want to try and give you assignment 3. Probably won't be due on exam week. Maybe I'll make it due the week when you come back, just to give you some time to get it done. Okay? Thank you so much, guys. See you on Wednesday. And good luck on your test.